Hey there, Roothaven Grounds family. If you think gardening season ends when the first frost hits, I've got some exciting news for you. Your garden doesn't have to go dormant just because the temperature drops. In fact, some of the most flavorful, nutrient-dense crops actually prefer cooler weather and will reward you with harvests well into winter and even early spring. I've spent years experimenting with cold weather gardening, and I can tell you there's something magical about harvesting fresh greens when there's frost on the ground. Today, I'm sharing 14 vegetables and herbs that laugh in the face of cold weather, along with real tips from my own garden to help you succeed. Whether you're a seasoned gardener looking to extend your season, or a beginner wondering what to plant right now, this guide will transform how you think about winter gardening. Let's start with the superstar of winter gardens. Kale doesn't just tolerate cold weather, it actually gets sweeter after a frost. Those chilly temperatures convert starches into sugars, giving you the best-tasting kale you'll ever grow. I've harvested kale in single-digit temperatures, and it keeps producing new leaves throughout winter. Plant kale about 6 to 8 weeks before your first expected frost. The varieties Winterbor and Lacinato are particularly hardy, surviving temperatures down to 10 degrees Fahrenheit when established. Here's my trick. Always harvest from the bottom leaves upward, allowing the plant to keep growing from its center. This single technique has kept my kale plants productive for months longer than my neighbors' gardens. Spinach is one of those vegetables that actually sulks in hot weather, but thrives when temperatures drop. It can handle temperatures down to 15 degrees Fahrenheit, especially when given some protection. I plant spinach in early fall for a late autumn harvest, and again in late winter for early spring greens. The key with spinach is succession planting every 2 weeks during your planting window. This gives you a continuous harvest, rather than one big flush that you can't use fast enough. Bloomsdale and Space are my go-to varieties because they're specifically bred for cold tolerance and slow bolting. Swiss chard brings gorgeous color to winter gardens with its vibrant stems in reds, yellows, and oranges. This underappreciated green survives temperatures down to 15 degrees Fahrenheit and keeps producing long after other crops have called it quits. What I love about chard is its cut-and-come-again nature. You can harvest outer leaves continuously, and the plant keeps generating new growth from the center. Plant chard in late summer, and it'll establish strong roots before winter hits. Those established roots make all the difference in cold tolerance. I've had chard survive under snow and pop right back up when it melts looking as healthy as ever. Here's something that surprises many gardeners. Carrots left in the ground through light frosts develop an incredible sweetness. The cold triggers the same sugar conversion we see in kale, transforming ordinary carrots into candy-sweet roots. Varieties like Napoli and Bolero are particularly cold-hardy and can overwinter in many zones with mulch protection. The secret is timing your planting, so carrots reach maturity right around your first frost date. Then you can either harvest them or mulch heavily with straw and harvest throughout winter as needed. I've pulled carrots from frozen ground in January that were more delicious than any summer carrots I've grown. Brussels sprouts require patience. They take about 90 to 100 days to mature, but they're worth every day of waiting. These cold weather lovers actually need frost to develop their best flavor. I start mine in midsummer for a late fall and winter harvest. The trick with Brussels sprouts is to remove the lower leaves as the sprouts form up the stalk. This directs the plant's energy into developing firm, tight sprouts. Once you've had your first hard frost, start harvesting from the bottom up. Each sprout you pick allows the ones above it to size up nicely. Garlic is unique on this list because you planted in fall for next summer's harvest, but it's growing all winter long underground. Those cold weeks are actually essential for proper bulb development. Garlic needs a period of vernalization to form separate cloves. Plant individual cloves pointed end up about 4 to 6 weeks before your ground freezes. Space them 6 inches apart and mulch heavily. By spring, you'll see green shoots, and you can harvest delicious garlic scapes in early summer before pulling the mature bulbs. I plant garlic every October without fail, and it's become my favorite set-it-and-forget-it winter crop. Parsnips are for the patient gardener who understands that good things take time. These root vegetables need the full growing season, around 120 days, but they're among the most frost-tolerant crops you can grow. In fact, many gardeners leave them in the ground all winter and harvest in early spring. The starch-to-sugar conversion in parsnips is even more dramatic than in carrots. A parsnip harvested after several hard frosts tastes completely different from one pulled in autumn, nutty, sweet, and complex. Mulch them heavily, mark where they are so you can find them under snow, and dig them up as needed throughout winter. If you've never grown mâché, you're missing out on one of the most cold-hardy salad greens available. This European favorite survives temperatures down to 10 degrees Fahrenheit and keeps producing tender, nutty-flavored leaves all winter. I discovered mâché a few years ago, and it's transformed my winter salads. Mâché grows in beautiful rosettes close to the ground. Sow it thickly in late summer or early fall, and you'll be harvesting by late autumn. The plants are small, so you'll need a decent-sized patch, but they're so hardy that they require minimal attention once established. Arugula is another green that, honestly, just performs way better in cool weather than in warm. Summer arugula bolts so quickly, and, it becomes unbearably spicy, but fall and winter arugula stays mild, sweet, and really productive. It can actually handle temperatures down to about 25 degrees Fahrenheit, and with row cover protection, even colder. I like to plant arugula every 3 weeks from late summer through early fall. This kind of succession planting means I always have tender young leaves ready to harvest. The variety called Astro is particularly cold-hardy and slow to bolt. Just be sure to cut the leaves when they're young, about 3 to 4 inches, for the best flavor and texture. Leeks are incredibly cold-hardy members of the allium family, and they can overwinter in the ground in many climates. They're definitely slower growing than a lot of the crops on this list, needing about 120 to 150 days to reach full size, but honestly, they're worth the wait for that mild, sweet flavor. Start leeks in spring or early summer if you want a winter harvest. Hill soil up around the stems as they grow to create that prized white section. Once cold weather arrives, leeks just kind of sit there, just waiting for you to harvest them. I've even dug leeks out of frozen ground by pouring hot water around them first to thaw the soil. That's a real dedication to fresh winter vegetables. Cilantro is one of those herbs that just refuses to cooperate in hot weather. It bolts immediately. But in cool weather, it's like a completely different plant. Fall-planted cilantro grows slowly and steadily, producing abundant leaves without that rush to flower. Sow cilantro seeds directly in the garden in early fall. The plants will establish before winter, and then slow way down during the coldest months. As temperatures start warming in late winter, they'll put on a growth spurt before eventually bolting in spring. For continuous cilantro, just plant every few weeks during the fall planting window. Parsley is technically a biennial, which means it has a 2-year life cycle. If you plant it in late summer, it'll establish strong roots before winter. The plants go dormant during the coldest months, but can survive temperatures down to 10 degrees Fahrenheit, then bounce back vigorously in early spring. Both flat leaf and curly parsley are cold hardy, though honestly, I prefer flat leaf for its stronger flavor. The key is getting parsley established with at least 6 to 8 weeks of good growing conditions before those hard freezes arrive. Those strong roots really make all the difference in winter survival. Claytonia, also called miner's lettuce, is a wild edible that's been domesticated for gardens. It's one of the most cold-hardy greens available, surviving temperatures well below 20 degrees Fahrenheit. The small round leaves have a mild flavor and crisp texture that's honestly just perfect for winter salads. I like to scatter Claytonia seeds in late summer or early fall, and they quickly germinate and spread. The plants self-sow readily, so once you establish them, they'll return year after year. It's honestly like having a perennial salad green that requires zero maintenance. Turnips give you 2 vegetables in one, the roots and the greens. Both are cold-hardy and, really delicious. The greens can handle temperatures down to 20 degrees Fahrenheit, while the roots survive even colder weather when mulched. Plant turnips about 2 months before your first frost for an autumn harvest, or plant in early spring for a late spring crop. I prefer smaller varieties like Hakure for their sweet, mild flavor. Harvest when they're golf ball sized for the most tender roots, and don't overlook those nutritious greens. They're honestly one of my favorite cooked greens. Growing food in cold weather isn't just possible, it's rewarding in ways that summer gardening never quite matches. There's something deeply satisfying about harvesting fresh vegetables when your neighbors think gardening season is over. These 14 crops have transformed my relationship with winter, turning what used to be dormant months into productive, delicious gardening time. Start with a few varieties that excite you most, learn what works in your specific climate, and expand from there. Your winter garden is waiting, and trust me, that first harvest of frost-sweetened kale or candy-sweet carrots will make you a cold-weather gardening convert. If you found this guide helpful, don't forget to subscribe to Roothaven Grounds for more practical gardening wisdom throughout the year. Share this article with your fellow gardeners who need to know that their garden doesn't have to sleep all winter. Let's grow together, no matter the season. Happy gardening, friends!